Dear friends and listeners, this is Pastor Hoketo Chopi of Sumi Baptist Church, Kohima on the voice. Well, this message may not be so sound to you, yet out of the situation that we are encountering, I had no choice but to admonish my church members to be strong in faith and in such an hour as this. The coronavirus pandemic has put an alarm to the world that sometimes we are caught in between as that of the Israelites. So this message is for you all. Amen. In Exodus chapter 14, we read that the Israelites had been slaves in Egypt. God sent Moses to be their deliverer. There were 10 plagues that God brought to the Egyptians. The Israelites had seen God do miracle after miracle after miracle. They had seen the power of God. The Egyptians became so fearful, they sent the Israelites out and gave them gold and silver. And as the Israelites left, they had great joy. Then something happened. They reached the Red Sea. It was so deep for them to walk through. There was no bridge to walk across. Suddenly, behind them, they heard the sound of Pharaoh's chariots. Pharaoh had changed his mind. Pharaoh had sent powerful chariots to go after the Israelites, capture them, and bring them back to him. In front of them is the Red Sea. Behind them, they heard the sound of Pharaoh's chariots. What were they going to do? They were in a situation. They had never had this problem before. Sometimes it is like us. We have seen the power of God. We have been saved from sins. We have seen some people healed. We have seen God do different things. All of a sudden, we find ourselves in a new problem. Sometimes there is a problem in front of us as well as a problem behind us. We don't know what to do. Well, let me read Exodus chapter 14, verse 10. And when Pharaoh drew near, the children of Israel lifted their eyes, and behold, the Egyptians marched after them. So they were very afraid, and the children of Israel cried out to the Lord. Now, what we notice here is that the Israelites panicked. They cried out in fear. It is good to cry out to the Lord. But they did not cry out in faith. They cried out in fear. And that's what we normally do. Now let me read verse 11. Then they said to Moses, "Because there were no graves in Egypt, have you taken us away to die in the wilderness? Why have you so dealt with us to bring us up out of Egypt?" And here again, the Israelites felt self-pity. They felt sorry for themselves, saying, "Sorry, poor you, why all this?" and so on. And in verse 12, "Is this not the word that we told you in Egypt, saying, 'Let us alone, that we may serve the Egyptians'? For it would have been better for us to serve the Egyptians than that we should die in the wilderness." Here we see that the Israelites became very passive. They said, "Leave us alone." Sometimes we too become passive, saying God has not done things the way He should do. I will stop going to the church, stop praying and stop reading the Bible, stop giving tithes and offerings. But that's the wrong way to respond. It's not God who brought the problem. And in verse 13 and 14, "And Moses said to the people, 'Do not be afraid. Stand still and see the salvation of the Lord, which He will accomplish for you today. For the Egyptians whom you see today, you shall see again no more forever. The Lord will fight for you, and you shall hold your peace.'" Friends, maybe right now you are in the middle of a very difficult situation like the case of coronavirus, locked down, don't know what to do. And in response, you might have panicked, crying to God out of fear, rather being cried in faith. Or you might have been self-pity, saying, oh, what all this to me? Or also, you might have been so passive by distancing yourself from church, praying, tithing, and so on. And even though in the past you have seen the power of God, yet this time you are in a new situation. That behind you are a Pharaoh's army and in front is the Red Sea. What do you do? God is reminding us to be strong, be firm, and believe on the promises of God. He is so powerful that He will fight for us. When we go through the verses, we find that God fought on their behalf and delivered the Israelites. The angels of the Lord and the clouds moved back and held between the Egyptians and the Israelites. The clouds made dark for the Egyptians, but gave light to the Israelites. Moses stretched out his hand over the sea. The waters were divided, and the Israelites went through the sea on dry ground. At midnight, the Lord saw the Egyptians crossing the river, and He caused confusion upon them, and made the wheels of the chariots to get stagnated, and were unmoved. And of fear that the Lord is with the Israelites, the Egyptians decided to withdraw. And the Lord told Moses to stretch his hand again towards the river, and so did Moses. The river flowed back as usual, and all the Egyptians were swept away, not sparing any one of them. And this is how the Lord fought for Israel. Friends, if you are in the middle of a difficult situation right now, and you respond in the right way, God will protect you. God can do supernatural protection. Sometimes in the middle of difficult situation, we have enemies. As Christians, we know that our enemies are not people. They are spiritual beings, as that of Satan's coronavirus today. What about you? Are you facing a new problem now? It is hard to see that God is there for you. It feels like there is a Red Sea in front of you that is too deep. It feels like behind you, you can hear the sound of the Pharaoh's chariots. You have never faced a difficulty like this before. We must not give in to panic. We must not give in to self-pity. We must also repent and not become passive and say, God, leave me alone. Instead, we must persist and stand firm on God's promises. We must participate in acts of faith and expect God's promises to come out. If we respond in the right way, God will do His big part. God will protect you. God will provide a way for you. God will cause destruction of evil forces that are trying to come against you in your situation. Friends, let me tell you this. Extreme faith gets extreme result. God bless you all.